Flight boss, bitch. You know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Terry Smooth. I am the Royal Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And this video right here is going to be about how to use elemental magic. Now, when I say magic, that's this alchemy. That is just alchemy. And when we start to talk about internal alchemy, not external alchemy, then for the most part, we're starting to do magic. When we do external alchemy, that's when we become magicians. You know what I'm saying? And utilize magic in other ways like that. You know what I'm saying? As a form of being a magician and pulling the wool over people's eyes or rose-colored glasses or creating tricks. But when we start to talk about internal magic, you know what I'm saying? You could do internal alchemy. You could do things in mysterious ways. You know what I'm saying? Marvelous ways. You know what I'm saying? The most magnificent ways anybody could see in this motherfucking world that's dealing with the and go in that direction. You know what I'm saying? That way. So, for the most part, like I said, once we start to talk about the circumstance of elemental alchemy, right, this is how you start to condense and manifest and make anything that you're actually trying to experience in this external world. So, for the most part, here's the thing, right? Now, fire. Fire is going to represent anytime you're trying to detach or visualize something. Water is going to represent anytime you're trying to connect to something and absorb or make yourself a part of something or absorb yourself within it. Air is going to be anytime you're trying to deal with travel, going the distance, aka esoterically speaking, logically thinking about a circumstance or situation and pondering on outcomes. And then you got the earth element, how to make things real, how to make it really real in your life. Whether it's the vision, fire, the feeling, emotion, water, or the intellect and the logic, thinking. To make it all real, you have to utilize earth, and that's concentration and practicality. And once you make sense out of what you thought, air, once you make sense out of what you felt, water, after you make sense out of what you felt also, but visualize enlightenment, fire, right? Once you make sense of it, that's you making a shape out of it. And once you make a shape out of it, that shape is going to participate in your life via person, place, or thing, circumstance, or situation. And the pointing system within that form that you created to go into as a form of information is going to let you know if it's going to be frustrating circumstances, positive circumstances, you know what I'm saying, trial and tribulation circumstances, prosperity circumstances, you know what I'm saying, mundane circumstances, based upon the shape that you have created and how disfigured it is, or how much of perfection it is, esoterically speaking. When something is very sharp, cornered out, aligned, carved out very nicely as far as a thought, an idea, problem, and solution. You can make a perfect triangle. You can make a perfect square. Idea, problem, solution, conclusion. You can make a perfect seal. Idea, problem, solution, conclusion, and an idea about that. That's 5 points, and that creates a seal before you get to 6. And that creates an emotion or tears. But at the same time, right, based upon the pointing system, you get to actually know what you actually have created. And based upon how much energy, elemental percentage level you have put in it, aka how much percentage level you put fire in it, how much percentage level you put water in it, how much percentage level you put air in it, how much percentage level you put earth in it. That's going to let you know the determined outcome of it also. You put a lot of fire in it, you know the determined outcome is going to lead into some form of creativity, transformation, death, or separation. You put a whole lot of water in it, you know the outcome is going to lead to some form of connection, fully submerging yourself with a group or an idea or a problem or something that you're trying to make yourself a part of, or completely losing yourself within that circumstance and giving all of your energy to others and you don't have any of your own. You know, you utilize too much of the air energy. You utilize a lot of thinking, analyzing, to the point that you could be lost in la la land and you could be lost into intellect where you're not sure of anything anymore. So you become the highest degree of a skeptic. Then you can utilize too much motherfucking earth. Things could become too hard in your life, too practical, too harsh. And to the most part, that all feelings, emotions, and thoughts and creativity is out the window because you're left to deal with all these responsibilities and these harshness and these condensed ass circumstances and situations that play out as road blockages in your life, and you can't even get ahead or move forward in your life until you take care of that. And some people loads is so motherfucking heavy, it might take more than one eon to get out of that motherfucking shit. You see what I'm saying? More than one lifetime. Real shit. So we about to get into actually how to utilize this elemental magic like it's your bitch, so you don't get caught in a circumstance or situation where you have to find yourself out of that end form. You have to find yourself out of that nation. You have to find yourself out of that information that you have lost yourself in, based upon that being a big ball of light and other people adding on to it, and you as a spirit is joining yourself into that shit, and then you don't know what the fuck you didn't got yourself into. You know what I'm saying? Now look, check this out, right? Now, here's the thing. When we're utilizing fire, it doesn't always necessarily deals with detaching. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it deals with your creative attribute, aka it's always going to be it's to some degree it may be a form of detaching, but it may be a form that you need to detach from, something that you have been stuck in so long that without no form of passion, motivation, disgruntled energy, or no idea for something else, then for the most part you might stay stuck in that vision and only see the world in one way. Keyword see. Fire. And what does fire do? It helps you see and it helps you feel. So for the most part, it puts you into a realm of reality of your visions. And once you fulfill that area, you can actually feel that vision. And this is what creates passion or internal fire or that ability to externalize or have that will to push out some type of energy because you feel what the fuck you just seen in your mind. That's why visions is first. Fire. You see what I'm saying? Then once that becomes that first heaven, it turns into a hell, right? Simultaneously, if you get lost in it, it's no longer fire. It cools off and you no longer see it as fire. You see it as your world that you're swimming in, aka as waters. But to other spirits doing the same thing around you, they still see it as fire. See, when we think about this in the esoteric realm, fire and water is the same substance. It's just the creation of vibration. And vibration creates substances that play out in the natures of what we call fluid. Anything that plays out fluidly, whether we're talking about mentally, emotionally, or physically. If it's playing out fluid, it's not stale, it's not stuck, it's not stable, whether it's a thought, feeling, or an emotion, it's dealing with fire and water. Now, the cool off version of it is water, and the first state of it is fire. You see what I'm saying? So it's like a transition. Then once you go to fire, water, boom, air. Then once you go to air is like that fire and water coming together and creating that shapeless and formless external representation. Remind you, fire and water is not actually things you can actually see and obtain. These are just existences. And the existences play out in multitudes of forms. And the multitudes of forms, we see it as different states and things that is fluid-like. But other than that, that's the only way we can actually see it. It's just a state of itself. Same way, like, you know, we might have been spiritually tired of standing up or something like that. So we created the concept of chairness. So within our minds, we use our physical forms and actually build a concept that's a chair for us to sit down in some way. So it's kind of like that in the same magnitude with water and fire. Fire, vision, feeling, water, emotion, and consoling into that in some way, shape, or form. But it's before it's actually physical. When you actually see the physical representation of fire and water, that's what actually air is, and breath, and the water. And then now all the physical representations you see condensed from that and things of that nature, where scientists is trying to call that atoms or other dumbass shit. But for the most part, anytime you need to separate from a circumstance or situation, that's when you utilize fire. Anytime you need to connect to a situation to see where it's going, to see if this is something that you even want to obtain yourself with or not, that's when you utilize water. You know what I'm saying? Anytime you want to utilize forms of trying to see where another person is coming from, or trying to analyze a perspective from all the surroundings and present, future, and past, that's when you utilize air. And anytime you're trying to make something real, and you try to make it a reality for you, that's when you utilize earth. And then you have to utilize all these alchemy and different percentage levels pertaining, depending on what situation that you're in. Each situation is different individually, and that's going to let you know if you're spiritually inclined how much energy to put in certain areas as far as each percentage level of this elemental tablet. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind also, and never forget this, because for the most part, when we go into our lives, it's so often that we utilize too much water element in a situation that where it's supposed to be more air. We utilize too much air element, we're in a situation that's supposed to be more earth. We end up not being able to know that this is actually what we're doing, to even construct the situation that we're into, that we can't even that we figure out that we can't handle. You know what I'm saying? You might jump into a situation that you don't want to take care of at the moment, or a situation that you feel like you can't handle. And we can handle everything. You know what I'm saying? God will never give you something that you can't handle. You just have to know what the fuck you're doing and don't be lost into the sauce and this Jewish mysticism and shit like that. And you know when a situation is starting to get too stuck and too rooted, aka let's say somebody trying to give you a responsibility or something like that, right? But this responsibility is something that you may not necessarily want to participate in, right? Or you want to be helpful, but you don't want to set yourself up to the point that this person end up depending on you in some way. You know that situation that you in got too much earth element into it. So you know what it takes. What melt material, what melt earth? Fire. You know water ain't gonna do nothing but clean it. So for the most part, if you're in a situation where somebody trying to make you more responsible about something than you necessarily need to, and then you start using water, you ain't doing nothing but rocking yourself to sleep and making this person feel comfortable about you accepting this responsibility, knowing deep down inside you don't really like that responsibility. That's adding water. You ain't doing nothing but cleaning the earth. Air ain't doing nothing but blowing on it or motherfucking dusting it off in some way, shape, or form. So that's you being nonchalant, you being dry, having a poker face. You not necessarily showing no emotion or anything. You just utilizing logic and what makes sense at the moment. But deep down inside, that still ain't something you practically want to do. You know what I'm saying? You now utilizing too much earth at this moment, right? You'll be in a situation where shit don't budge. This don't budge and you don't budge. So you're not making a change for the situation to be different. And the situation that you're in don't even look like it's going to change itself if you don't do something. So that's utilizing too much earth. You know what I'm saying? You're just going to bury your dick or pussy in the dirt and die. But if you utilize fire in this element, you know fire melts earth. So you know you might need a certain level of amount of fire depending on how much earth is already in it. Pardon me. And fire is when you jump into your visions, your imagination, and your ability to have passion. Now, for the most part, once you jump into that, off the back is going to take you on a mind trail of how to melt that block. Because for you to have an idea about something else, something that's currently there have to be changed, transformed, and in this case, melted. So that's when that'll be a right time to use fire. And then that'll be a right time where you're not supposed to consider the connection between that person that's making you put in that responsibility, aka water. That's when you're not supposed to care too much about the air aspect of it, because that's going to be thinking too much and being nonchalant. That might let the situation keep prolonging, and then you're not supposed to care about too much goddamn earth in that situation, because you know that ain't nothing going to move. So that fire is going to be needed at that time anytime your spirit start to feel like it's in a cage. So you're not supposed to care about thoughts, feelings, or emotions. You're supposed to be a spirit that just go based upon what you are experiencing and in reaching the space that you want to be in, so you don't have to continuously be in a cycle of thoughts and feelings that you no longer want to experience anymore, because you don't want that responsibility. And therefore the universe will work in your favor because you're utilizing fire in the right way at the right time. Now here's the thing, don't go straight fire. You add a percentage level of everything. You add a little bit of water so the things don't be too hot. So it don't be an explosion. It be a cool off melting. That mean a smooth transition. That mean a smooth change. That mean nobody toes got stepped on, and then that mean nobody feelings was hurt in some way, shape, or form. You see what I'm saying? So you came up with that idea utilizing esoteric alchemy. Then you add a little bit of air. Remember, if you're in this situation though, it's majority of fire. But to get out of that responsibility, this one example, you got to mix and mingle all of them in all situations. This is one example right now. Now you want to make sure it ain't too much fire, because that'll be an explosion, and it ain't melting, so it'll make it easy. So you want to make sure you got a little bit of water so the fire could be fluid and not just rapid and chaotic. Then you want to add a little bit of air. You know what I'm saying? A little bit of logic, aka a little bit of direction. You want a fan or somewhere where you're directing where that fire is blowing, where you add a little bit of water so you can have that earth, that responsibility, melt in a direction you want it to melt in. Don't just have it melt everywhere and melt all over the place, to the point that you got a responsibility that you just totally detached from, and now that responsibility can't even get fully taken care of at the maximum potential, because you had a lot of anchor in it. You had a lot of responsibility in it with other people, and once you left it, it all crashed down. No, you want to make sure whatever responsibility you in, you add a little bit of air also, aka you blow that fire and water, majority fire in the area of that earth responsibility so it can melt in a direction you want it to melt in. That therefore shit don't become chaotic. When you separate from it, things are still taken care of, and you handle your responsibilities as like a responsible person. You see what I'm saying? And therefore, you add a little bit of earth also. You want to make sure shit don't just melt and burn to the motherfucking ground. You want to make sure there's leverage there left and grounding there left and shit like that in order for people to stand on something, or you could stand on something, aka security, safety, aka not jumping into one situation before this situation is actually secure. You know what I'm saying? That's just being a goddamn fool. So I'm just giving you an example of when you're in a situation that got too much earth element in it, and you feel the necessary need to get out of that as a spirit. But other than that, there's a whole bunch of different alchemy tricks you could utilize based upon each individual circumstance. You know what I'm saying? And Flight Boss, bitch, you know, for sure. Utilize y'all motherfucking alchemy out here before somebody use it on your monkey ass.